Confederacy of dunks. Toronto Raptors. Scotty B. WeTheNorth, baby.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks basketball podcast. I'm your host, Freddie Rivas. I'm here with Andy Hull and our special guest, Zulfi Sheikh from the Run It Back Raptors podcast on Raptors Republic. First, what's up, Andy? How you doing? How's your week?
Oh, man. We had a week off. We were recharged. You know, we healed from our injuries.
Sure.
You know, and now we're ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, me and Andy got badly injured.
Badly injured.
That's why
really
we didn't record last week. Broken backs, but
slip discs,
disc.
fractured vertebrae.
Yeah, things were bad.
We got broken backs over Bane's knee. Like it was really bad for us.
Yeah, it was Bane specifically. Got both.
Yeah,
of us.
we thought, hey, let's fight him in the darkness. But it turns out, the darkness is his ally.
And he thrives. He thrives there. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
So, shout out Bane. He's arrested.
Shout out. He's being arrested. He's in jail now. Luckily, everything's fine now.
He's probably kicking ass in jail, I would say.
Yeah, he's doing fine in there.
But we're friends still. But sorry, we really went for it right away. Zulfi, what's up? Thanks for joining the podcast, man. How you doing?
Yeah,
thanks for having me, guys. I'm doing great. I don't know how I follow that up. I wasn't fighting crime nor supervillains, so I don't know if I can live up to that expectation, but I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you guys are okay after that.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, it was actually a dispute about which Sopranos episode is best. It wasn't even a crime thing. It was just a weird discussion.
Yeah, we both said the Russian episode. He said,
he's like, what is that? And the one where AJ overdoses. Anyways, let's go.
Let's sort of jump right into my first topic here. I don't know if any of you guys were able to catch Messi's full presser. I saw huge chunks of it, but lots of people discussing it on Twitter. Asfandir Barahani also did some really, really good sort of coverage there. Zulfi, let me go to you first. Messi Pressers are always exciting. A lot said. He's, just a captivating guy. Obviously it's a tumultuous time. What's your major takeaway or, major takeaways?
Yeah, I have a couple. Like you said, Messiah always is good for a quote. He says a lot of really fun and captivating things. Number one that I'm the happiest about kind of coming out of all of this is that after this draft, we're not going to have this very confusing conversation about keep versus convey anymore. For the love of God, if you saw the first 5 minutes of this press conference, it was Masai Ujiri and Michael Grains just confusing the hell out of each other, trying to figure out what each other meant about keep or convey and what that meant for next season. It was the funniest first 5 minutes of a conversation or a press conference ever. Please, I urge anyone to go back and listen to it because even the people at the top don't understand what's going on.
It made me feel good because sometimes I confuse that and and the fact that they were doing it, I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm in the clear here.
So the words keep and convey, I'm hoping, are out of the Raptors vernacular for a while after this because we'll have our answer by draft time. But on a real note with it, I think the biggest thing I took from it is that Masai is being very, I guess, transparent or honest about the fact that this is a rebuild now, or what the tank job was after the trades that happened this season. He's not hiding from it. He's not going away from it. And he's just embracing the fact that we're going to have to be patient. This is going to be a couple of years of a process. But the thing that was interesting within all that, he's still Masai Ujiri and he's still this guy who wants to compete and win. And I think just if you listen back to it, if you could even find a transcript and just see how many times he mentioned Scotty Barnes being that piece and being that checkbox number one that they figured out. I think for him, it's almost like he feels like he's already expedited the process a little bit. So yes, it is a rebuild. Yes, that is what he's talking about when it comes to patience, but he's also this guy who's kind of putting in the back of his head and kind of speaking to it where I think we're not going to be having to be rebuilding for 6 years plus. He even said, he's I'm not trying to do this for 6 years, a couple of years. Sure. Be patient with me for that. But I think he understands he's confident that Scotty Barnes is step one and they've already figured that part out. So he's telling people hey, I know I'm saying rebuild. I know you guys don't like that word and I'm telling you that's what we're going through, but don't worry. It's not going to be as long as you think.
I mean, I think you nailed it. And anyone who's really familiar with Masai is used to, him talking about winning and, winning in Toronto and being confident and believing in yourself and all that kind of stuff. And, for him to acknowledge that winning is not anytime soon,
Yeah.
I think is really big and really honest. I thought something interesting was him reflecting on, studying other franchises and how they rebuild. He has been an innovator, in his time in the NBA. And, as cool as that is, he did some interesting stuff with Denver. He obviously built through the middle and won a championship as a Raptor GM, which is very unique, right? He sort of busted the treadmill team narrative. But with that said, he won one championship, and it wasn't like a Bulls Warriors dynasty, right?
Yeah.
And obviously that's the hardest thing to do. But I think he considers himself someone who wants to win big and consistently and wants to win again. So shout out to having that kind of humility where you're like, yeah, I tried to innovate. I tried Vision 6-9. I tried to the run it back season, and it didn't work. And, also touching what you were saying, Zulfi, with Scotty, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I haven't seen Masai really, or this franchise, honestly, since, I don't know, I guess Chris Bosh, but not even Chris Bosh, kind of like Vince Carter. I haven't seen this franchise really put all their eggs into one basket in the same way that we've done with Scotty. Like whether it's the broadcast, like everything is around Scotty. Our training camps in Miami, like this whole franchise is devoted to one player. And that doesn't mean we're going to have like a heliocentric offense or whatever, but we are not saying like, oh, we're accumulating as much talent as we can. We're saying that we want to build around this singular guy, which, comes with its own risks and, opinions and stuff. But I think that is very clear, right? So we are very clearly, and also to your point, we got that guy. So it's not like we are going to tank to further get the guy that we're going to build around, right? So we have the guy we're going to build around. Will it be successful? We shall see. But we have that guy, and I think that this franchise believes that they have that guy. Andy, any thoughts on, sort of what came out of that presser?
Yeah, it's just kind of to what you guys were saying. It really felt like off the top of it, it was a lot of like preaching patience. It felt like it was like, yeah, have patience. And in that, admitting that, not admitting maybe isn't the right word, but like acknowledging finally that, yeah, we're in a full-on rebuild state here. It's obvious, to anyone who even casually watches the Toronto Raptors, but it's nice to hear your president talk about it in those terms and talk about patience and stuff like that. There was another, I forgot what I was going to say now. Anyways, the whole Scotty thing, I was like, yeah, it felt like there wasn't we didn't have that pressure around DeMar, really. We were all really excited for DeMar, but there wasn't this this is our guy, you know what I mean? It was great, we got this talented player, this is going to be great. So yeah, I agree that it feels like it's pure eggs in a basket here with Scotty, and hoping now to build those accentuating parts around the team and making sure that we have the right environment for that kind of player's growth, right? Which is that's the tougher part of the rebuild, because it's more amorphous. It's not so definable. You know what I mean? When you're looking for your number one guy, when you're looking for the first overall draft pick, you know what you're looking for. You're looking for ideally a generational talent that can lead a team and be all the things that you need. Whereas we've got our guy now, so now we're looking do we need a big center who can shoot threes? Yes, of course we do. But we need everything. You know what I mean? So it's really the direction of where you're going is just kind of we'll take anyone that's good. It's which is less satisfying completely than knowing you got to hone in on one guy. Therefore, what your goal is in the draft, right? Our goals now are any number of things, truly. Mm-hmm. So it's really tough, and it was tough for him to get up there and talk about that sort of thing too, it seemed right, which makes sense. one last thing, when you said that, oh yeah, the acknowledging the different sports. I did have a feeling when the guy, I can't remember who was asking the question, but they're like, do you look at other, like, have you, first of all, it was mildly insulting that it was like, have you studied rebuilds? It's like, yes, I have, man. How do you know what I mean? Like, I have this job. Like, I know about rebuilds. But then on the other side, when he was like, or from like past teams or from other sports, and did anyone else get the feeling when Masai was like, yeah, other sports, all the sports, trust me, we've looked at everything. It's like, it's okay. You don't have to say that you know everything. You know what I mean? Like, I believe you. I believe that you know so much and are very, well versed in this sort of topic. But like, it felt like it was like, yes, obviously I know it all. Yeah, no, I looked at everything. Trust me. It's like, okay, we'll see.
We've been digging into the water polo data, and
he's watched Moneyball back in the day. He knows how that works.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But watch out, the Masai stands. Don't come for me. I believe he's good. I love him.
Listen. You okay? The Raptors fan base is at such a point where if you're a Masai stan, people are going to come for you. If you're a Masai hater, also people are going to come for you.
Yeah. It's a lose-lose.
So yeah, it's pretty divisive times. I have a couple more thoughts, but yeah, I'll just sort of like open it up. Is there anything like minor or just sort of that you're still thinking about that he brought up?
I know for me, a thing that he brought up, and we kind of did touch on it with what you guys said, was like he was very like, I guess, like, I don't want to say he's like admitting to guilt or like wrongness in this, but like he did say when it comes to talent evaluation, like this team or like him specifically, they haven't hit a home run recently. A lot of their free agent signings haven't worked out the way they wanted to. Obviously, Jalen McDaniels on this team, what his season ended up being like. Dennis Schroeder, Masai said something along the lines of like, oh, maybe we didn't give it enough time, but that didn't work out how he wanted. And just talent evaluation through the draft in the last couple of years. He was very honest in saying that like we haven't done very well and that he takes responsibility. And I think that's going to be a big part of it. Like you guys are saying, like you have that anchor and that piece now in Scotty Barnes. And like, how do you build around that? Because so far he hasn't really had to focus on building around Scotty Barnes because of the way this team was built. And in Masai's like tenure here, he hasn't had to, like you guys mentioned, like that singular star and build around it. It hasn't been the case. DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry were kind of a duo. And a lot of it, quite honestly, happened by accident. He was trying to trade Kyle Lowry when he was first here. And then it just worked out that they ended up being really good. And then you had the whole WeTheNorth era run. And then in some ways, when they won a championship, it was the reverse of that. They had a really, really good team, but they didn't have that focal point to get them over the hump. And that's when Kawhi was available, they made it happen. They almost reverse engineered the typical process. But now, like, this is their first time where, like, again, since Vince Carter, really, that this franchise has, like, we have our 1A, we know it, and now we have to build around him. And so far, there isn't really much to show to go for it. Some of it has been out of their circumstances, our situation with the Christian Coloco thing and his medical like history and what's going on with that. The DeJounte Porter situation is obviously something no one expected. But I think like now it's coming to the point where like this draft specifically, I think is going to be a really big indicator of like how this team fares in the future talent evaluation wise. Whether they have that topic or not, they still should have a pretty decent like mid first round pick with the Pacers. And if you want to get back to your development and talent and evaluation roots, it's like, hey, find a really good player in this weak draft class that you can turn into somebody in the NBA. And then your approval rating is probably going to go back up if you're Masai Ujiri. Because like you said, Freddie, like it's a very polarizing topic, whether you support Masai or not. The whole in Masai we trust is definitely not a phrase everyone in the Raptors fan base is kind of going with these days as much as they used to. So if you want to get back in the good graces with a lot more of the fans, go through this draft and find a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say that's absolutely bang on. I think that I was just looking. There's a Masai in the presser said something like there's going to be like 2 All-Stars that come out of this draft. So I don't know what everyone's talking about it being like the worst class and all this. You can blame the draft class and all blah blah blah. So I looked back at like some of the worst draft classes in NBA history, of which everyone seems to agree the 2000 draft is by far the worst. 2006 is often mentioned. I think it's 2011 or 2013 is also mentioned. But looking at 2000 specifically, there's 2 All-Stars in there, and guess what their names are? It's like Kenyon Martin and I can't remember. I don't have it over here now, but it's another player that you're like he made. Oh, it's like Jamal McGlure.
Like, I was guessing that. I'm glad you said Big Cat.
He didn't say perennial All-Stars.
Yeah,
exactly. One-time All-Stars. So So I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, I guess that's just technically true for every draft then. So like that's not really a good point to make there, Messiah. But when you look at that 2000 draft, yes, it is when you stack them up, it's like there's no like all-time player.
Is that Olowokandi?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. Sorry.
I swear I just had the tab up. I'm such a dummy. I moved off of it to look at someone else's list. Okay. But here it is. It's okay. Top 5 is Kenyon Martin, Stromwell Swift, Darius Miles, Marcus Pfizer, and Mike Miller. Just
Yeah, that's
Wait,
right.
Kenny Martin was first?
Yeah, he
Kenyon
was.
Martin's first pick.
That is a very forgotten draft.
Yeah, and actually in this draft, the Raptors came out with like surprisingly one of the better picks in it. We had the 21st pick and we got Mo Pete. So like not like an amazing player, but like a beloved player for the Raptors and like a guy who played solid minutes for us, right? All the time. Like Mo Pete, one of my favorite players of all time. I'm not ashamed to admit it. So, you know, we somehow came away with a decent guy here. But like there are a bunch of like players in this draft, you know what I mean? Like players who played real minutes, who were decent guys. Quentin Richardson, Hito Turkoglu's in this draft, Mo Pete's in this draft, like, and we're going up into the 20s here. So like if it's as bad as this, yeah, it's not great. I'm not saying it's going to be good, but like there is an opportunity to find a player or two especially with where we're going to be and how high we have those picks and how many we have, that I'm like, okay, if you can pull a Mo Pete out of this draft, I think I'll be pretty happy with it, you know? Like,
yeah.
So, but that is, I don't know. It doesn't feel good though still. So I get what's going on. I get it. But it's not like doom and gloom. It's not like it's for sure a bust. Everything's awful. It's not.
You know, I think that's where the patience comes in. And to your point, Zulfi, the like, you know, getting back in people's, you know, good graces, right? The highest picks for Masai as a Raptor we'll see how good Grady is, but have all been hits, right? Scotty, Jakob, and Grady are the highest picks, and obviously we will see with Grady, but you know, Pirtle, NBA player, you know, a guy who will play like 14, 15 years, good center. Scotty, all-star in year 3, and Grady obviously maybe a bit of a rough start, but you know, best shooter in the draft, that sort of panned out. But I think, you know, winning around the margins is sort of Masai's signature. And, you know, another awesome point you made, Zulfi, was that not necessarily like it's hard to win by accident, right? Which is one of the reasons I feel like I'm one of the only like Doc Rivers defenders. It's like I don't think winning a championship is something you can ever take away from someone in any way. It's just such a incredible achievement that I don't really care what you inherited. But to that point, you know, and this is Masai saying this, I'm quoting, Esfandier from Twitter here. When we first came here, Dwayne Casey, Kyle Lowry, and DeMar DeRozan set the tone for what our culture was. It was hard work, but those guys were very experienced. The difference we have here is a young player and a first-time head coach who's done a remarkable job. So I think what's said there is I, you know, inherited this situation that was not a winning situation, but there was a foundation of not, you know, for lack of a better word, being losers. And I was able to tweak that. But that's very different than being in a situation where, you know, and this is sort of like, I get it. A lot of people are, you know, are pro tankers and they feel that there's this very linear aspect to tanking, but also a part of tanking is having a Jonte Porter situation, having a Bruce Brown situation, having, you know, there's the Raptors fans who've been Raptors fans for a long time. They know what losing brings, right? It can bring guys demanding trades. It can bring all sorts of like, it can bring coach firings. It can get really messy and bad. So I think part of the challenge here is how do you take what we have now and make it something that is not a joke, right? How is next year? How do you have no 15-game losing streaks? And I think some fans will be quick to say, it's like, oh, well, we were so injured. It's like, yeah, but like people don't care, right? And Detroit has a lot of excuses too, but it's the NBA and people will beat up on you. Like they're like, you know, it's not an apologetic league, right? So I think that is an interesting takeaway for me. him acknowledging kind of like what he did inherit. And yeah, everyone knows like the failed Kyle Lowry trade. And by the way, I should say that's not the only time he tried to trade Kyle Lowry. I think it was about 3 times. So, including in the championship year where Kyle had to come out to the public and say, please don't trade me. Yeah. So, all that said, interesting times. We will have a very, very interesting offseason as far as speculation, and should also be interesting to see what Masai does with more cap space. Obviously, we're not a major free agency destination, never have been. But when you're thinking about the players around the margins, like how is that used? Okay.
Here's a quick thing before we move on to the next thing. You just made me think of this. Maybe it's way off. I shouldn't even ask it. Is the Toronto Raptors one of the weirdest teams to ever win the championship? Like, are we one of the weirdest teams?
Sure.
And I don't mean overall franchise. I mean the year that it happened and like maybe a year or two leading up to it. What a bizarre story that this team is with everything that you just talked about. I'm just thinking about it, and I thought about it before too. But like, wow, what a weird story we are. We get Kawhi, he doesn't come back the next year. Like, holy crap! Like, when does that? That's never happened. All this, like,
LeBron leaves.
I kind of love that. Yeah, right. I kind of love that about us, though. Like, everything just fell into position perfectly. Not to take anything away from Masai, of course, and the players, but like, our team was awesome. We were dominant for
a lot
years.
Of dominoes had to fall in the right place. Like, some people kind of forget even just the run itself. Game 7 against Philly, obviously the most ridiculous shot by Kawhi Leonard. That doesn't fall. It's all like you go to overtime. I think a lot of people agree the Raptors were running out of gas in that game, that they very likely lose, and their season is done. Kawhi Leonard guarding Giannis in that series, the reverse sweep after losing the first 2 games. That could have gone very differently. Fred VanVleet having a kid and him waking up and becoming the second coming of Isaiah Thomas, pretty much. And like that whole situation. And like looking back in the team, like the all NBA defenders you had on that roster, OG Anunoby didn't even play in the playoffs. So exactly. Like there's just so many circumstances and situations that were just so out of nowhere with that Raptors run. And just everything that went. The Warriors had DeMarcus Cousins join that team, and people kind of forget about it. And everyone was like, "Oh my God, you're already with the KD Warriors, and then you had DeMarcus Cousins. Who's going to beat this team? What's going to happen?" Then he gets hurt, and his situation. Then obviously the other injuries to the Warriors towards the end. There were so many little things that are forgotten about that championship season and the stuff leading up to it. It's crazy. It is. You're right. I think it is one of the weirdest championships in NBA history, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, no, it's a thing, right? It's like I think. There's so many ways to frame it too, right? Like there's all the sort of like good calculated moves, and then all the like, the Kawhi, the bounce, and just everything that happened with the Bucks and everything that happened with the Warriors, and a lot of things aligned. And that Raptors team was they're not in this category of like a weaker championship team. They're actually a really, really strong championship team.
Very deep
but.
team.
Yeah, that Bucks team was strong. That Sixers team was strong. I mean, I don't know if this is a controversial take, but I think any of those 3 teams beat the Warriors that year because the Warriors, to me, were out of gas. I remember I was watching, okay, this is a bit of a tangent, but I remember during that championship series, there was a moment when the Warriors brought Alfonso McKinney to guard Kawhi. And we had cut McKinney earlier that year. And I was like, these guys are absolutely toast. Like these guys can't. Like we almost swept the Warriors. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously, whatever Durant and Clay, we all know that. But it's like that team was like that was its 5th finals in a row. They were like quite literally limping into and that they did sweep the Blazers in the series before, but man, they almost lost that Houston series too if Chris Paul doesn't go down. And but anyways, we almost lost to the Sixers. So there's just so many ways to slice that, and it was it's just like, well, we need a documentary. We need to get into the nitty gritty. But okay, let's move on here. A bit of a lighter question, but sticking with like what's happening next. We know we want to resign quickly. So let's just imagine that happens. He's restricted. It's going to happen. But I'm going to ask you first, Andy. What's your bonding what's your like bonding recipe this summer? How are you getting these young guys to sort of, like whatever, like have that Thunder vibe, right? How are you sort of putting these guys in a place to be like, this team's fun, they like each other, they're gonna start the season in the right way?
I got 3 words for you: Dave and Busters.
Ooh, I like it.
I defy you to not have a bonding experience at Dave and Buster's if you go with some people that you like or even don't like. You're gonna have a great time. You're gonna play arcade games from the mid 2000s. You're gonna get a bunch of tickets coming out of the Wheel of Fortune game and the thing where you try to line up the blocks on the digital blocks and you're trying to win like an iPod Nano. But you can't, and I didn't get the Nano, but I got a bunch of tickets. Dave and Buster's, or 2 different words: casino heist. You know what I mean? Everyone bonds on a casino heist. Also,
yeah, it's scary. It's scary.
We've seen it over time and time again. Everyone's got a nice role to play. It's a nice like version of a team that you just sort of bring over, and instead we steal millions of dollars out of a vault from Casino Niagara. I think it would be wonderful. I think it'd be a great time. But also, P.S. they both happen in Niagara Falls, so they got a Dave and Buster's there. They got a casino there. Let's go. Why not do both in the same night?
I do like the idea of the Dave and Buster's being good for not just if you like each other, but also if you don't like each other, because you can have fun playing games together. But if you don't like someone, you can be competitive and try to beat them at every game, and you're still having a good time.
And you're going to get that respect for someone, especially, you know what I mean? If you're playing Time Crisis and you're like, man, this guy can shoot, and you're like, because it's a cooperative game that you're still trying to do competitively. It's great.
Works for everybody. Are you a Dave? Are you a Buster? You know what I mean?
There you go.
What are the individual Dave and Buster personalities?
It doesn't really make sense. But I haven't been to Dave and Buster's in a long time. Zulfi, what's your bonding tactic?
I think for me, the first thing I thought of was like, one, it has to be food related in some way with the city. If you want people, especially, again, a lot of the basketball players that are here in the city are experiencing the winter months, which isn't as fun as summer. So something in the summertime where people can go out and it can be food or drink related in the city. And this is going to be a controversial one because this is a very polarizing type of, I guess, like thing to do or enjoy. But I want to do like a coffee bar crawl. I know these guys are young, but hey, your leader in Darko Rakovic, he loves an espresso. He loves coffee. So I thought let him kind of take charge on this. And I think the city has so many fun and really good coffee places to offer. Just some places near me I think about are Moss Park Espresso. There's Bulldog Coffee, Reply. None of these guys are sponsoring me, but please do. But pretty much there's so many really good coffee places around downtown Toronto. It's a great area for them to experience things. It's a great area for them to experience the summer vibes. And again, these are young dudes. Maybe they're not super into coffee, but like everything Masai said in his press conference is he wants to expedite and speed this up as much as he can. Get these guys some Zoom juice, get in the gym, get all hyped up on caffeine, get out there and just keep working on your game. And that's a great way to do it. And I think like it's kind of bonding in the sense that they're going to be together and get to learn. We see what Darko Rakovic is like when he's happy, and on top of it, his passion comes out so much. That 3-game winning streak when they had the pizza party and how his video after that came out. I think he's just a really fun guy when he's in his element. And Darko has mentioned a ton how much he loves coffee. So I don't think there's a better place for him to be in his element than a coffee bar crawl thing. And you get to see the city a little bit. So that was my random idea.
That's a great idea.
This is a fantastic idea. The idea of a coffee bar crawl, because I remember that was one of my major takeaways from the original, meeting of Darko and the Darko Presser is that.
Uh-oh.
No.
Uh-oh.
He needs some coffee.
Okay, Freddie's gone for a sec. He's going to come back in a few minutes. But I want to say my other one, but I also kind of want Freddie to hear it. But I'll say it, and maybe we'll have to re-record it. What if, though, okay, here's an additional idea. What if we get Darko to DM a Dungeons and Dragons campaign for like the whole roster at once? Okay, you get everybody builds a character, everybody comes up with their backstory and everything.
Yeah,
and you got Darko sitting behind the DM screen, telling he's got some world building going on. Okay, you're fighting the Lich, and he comes up to you. What are you going to do? I think it'd be really fun. Freddie, I just said DM. Darko as DM, huge Dungeons and Dragons campaign, entire team.
That's good, fantastic. Right? I also love that my internet's so reliably shoddy that the last thing I heard was Freddie's gone, he'll be back. I gotta keep talking anyways.
I knew you'd be back. You're gonna be back.
They didn't skip a beat at all.
Yeah.
But okay, these are wonderful ideas. I sort of have like one kind of half-baked idea and one idea which I'm like, okay, this is big. It's an undertaking, but I think we're in the right situation to take it further. Here's the half-baked idea. I know there are players who have been here for Caravana, but I think that it's important to have a Raptors float. Like, let's make sure they're here, and let's like have a huge Raptors party.
This is an actual very good idea,
Yeah,
like a real actual one. Yeah,
because it's like obviously there's players who are like, oh my god, Caravana is amazing, but I think like let's make sure we have like a team jet that's like wherever you're working out, it's all good. We're bringing you here for one weekend to party, to have fun. And like how exciting would that be for Caravana itself, right?
I will say this: can you please respect our corporate overlords? It is the Scotiabank Caribbean Festival. Thank you.
I'm so sorry, Scotiabank. I love banks. I go to the big banks. Bless up banks. I go to the big banks every day, and I salute them all.
Oh yeah.
And I'm right in the middle of King Street, and people are like, please get out. But yeah, so
please get out.
Please leave. Don't salute the banks. You are arrested. But I'll do it again. And here's my other idea. Open gym, the best. We love open gym. Summer content sometimes gets light, right? And I think sometimes the open gym, they're like, oh, we're at Summer League. Here's the new draft player, which is awesome, and a couple other guys. I think that it's Scotty's team now, and Scotty's world, and we got to do like an open gym through Scotty's eyes. So that's him wearing the GoPro, him directing a little bit. I want to have like a mini sort of like open gym with Scotty directing. So
okay,
let's just see what that looks like. Maybe it's a bit of a mess. Maybe it's fun. You can if they're training in Miami, which I think they are. I want them to meet Messi. I want them to go see a
that could be cool.
See it. You know what I mean? Like play some soccer, mess around, and open gym, Scotty style, Caravana. Sorry, what's the actual? It's Scotiabank.
The Scotiabank Caribbean Festival, please.
Oh God, thanks.
I feel like Scotty would be actually into that idea. I know he likes making content. He has, I think he has like his own content team.
He's funny.
He streams a lot and stuff. So I think he'd be in for it.
Yeah, I mean, Grady would be hilarious.
Does Scotty have a Twitch account?
I don't know what he streams on. I think it's Twitch. I assume it's Twitch.
Yeah.
But I don't know where he streams, but he definitely does. He especially during his early seasons. When he was like not as much the face of the franchise, he was definitely streaming a lot more. That's for sure.
He's hilarious.
He's ya boy Scotty on Twitch. He has 40,000 followers. I will follow him right now.
That's not enough. Let's not enough.
Twitch wise, it's not that big of a following for someone of this big public persona. Anyways, yeah.
Let's move on to some NBA stuff. Zulfi, what is the funniest or most interesting or obscure C or D or E or whatever not talked about plot line in the NBA playoffs? Obviously, we're still waiting on a couple play-in games, but from what we know right now.
Oh, see, I completely misread this question then because I thought it was about the Raptors season. I didn't realize it was about the NBA playoffs. So
here, I'll give you some time because I got one. I can go.
Yeah,
first.
Thank you.
No worries.
All good.
I have the best C story easily in the playoffs. But it would be, I think, a B story, possibly even an A story, because of the implications for the rivalry. But we do have an injury that's really taking away from it. I think it's the Bucks Pacers. It's the game ball. It's the rematch. It's it's the Pacers saying get our or the Pacers tricked the Bucks, right? Gave them the wrong ball, right? Because Giannis was so mad. Yeah. So it's the Bucks saying get our real ball back. And it's Pacers going like, we got the real ball, suckers, and it's just an heated, intense rivalry, and it would have been so fun to see Giannis explode in anger every time someone mentions a game ball to him. You know what I mean? Every time someone in Indiana screams like, "You got a fake ball, Giannis!" So I do think the series is actually going to be fun for that reason. Obviously less fun because you don't get to see the best player play in it, but it's
is he out for the whole series?
That's what I've been hearing is that he's probably
I know
gone.
He's last I saw from Shams, I believe he's doubtful, but like Giannis is also a guy who just is known for his freakish ability to recover. In that Hawks series, people thought he snapped his leg in half and he came back.
I know that was nuts.
Yeah, so like I think he's doubtful, but they're hoping if it goes long enough he should be back.
Yeah, this is a soft tissue injury I was reading, which is like a little more touch and go, and they're a little more worried about that sort of injury. So it might be a little longer than like he normally would be away. But I like, so not anytime soon, but yes, possibly as we go on. So like, hopefully he comes back. My God, of course. But I love this. I love this rivalry because I think there was whatever. Anyways, just the whole ball story. I love it. It was such a wild and weird, fun event that happened to these two teams. And these two teams are pretty fun to watch when they got their stuff going on, obviously, right? Like high paced offensive teams who can, I don't know, put up some really good game moments. And I think that's just I think we're seeing a new rivalry happen, and these playoffs are going to cement it. And it's kind of cool to see.
I love it.
Yeah.
Zulfi, do you have a C or D?
I came up with one. It's relatively recent, and I think I'm just making up a storyline out of this, but I do think it's going to be interesting, and I hope it's something. Recently, we saw Team USA. They announced their roster, obviously very stacked, pretty much all NBA, Hall of Famer type guys on it. If Kawhi Leonard's the last guy being added to that team, it's a stacked roster. But Kyrie Irving, I think, was asked about it, and he basically said something along the lines of like, "Oh, I remember the times when you kind of had to show up to camp, try out, and they saw how guys fit together. They saw how teams mesh, and that was the kind of a thing." So like, I don't know. Part of me is kind of hoping that like Kyrie Irving has a chip on his shoulder for something like that. He's somebody that you think would be on a team like this in years past because of the cachet and the type of person that he is as a player and how people respect him. I want to see a pissed off Kyrie Irving. I think the Dallas Mavericks have a good matchup in the first round with maybe Kawhi Leonard not being there. And I think it could be fun for Kyrie Irving to have some kind of external motivation to go on a run with this team. I think people forget with the season that Luka Doncic has, the MVP that he is, that Kyrie Irving is still that dude. He's still an insane player in this league, and like anything to kind of add some drama to that. I can't remember the last time, especially with the way awards races go now, that like before if you had a guy like back in the day, like I can remember the whole David Robinson thing with like him being pissed off about the MVP ages ago, and then him playing through the playoffs and being really mad about it. Like we don't have that anymore, where there's a storyline from before the postseason kind of impacting the postseason the same way. There's those narratives, like Andy mentioned, kind of being pissed off about a couple situations in a rivalry type thing. But I think awards races and stuff like that kind of go out of it. So I do want to see like a narrative really piss a player off and have them motivated through the postseason. So if Kyrie Irving can feel slighted, I think an angry Kyrie Irving is awesome to see. And I want to see what comes of that.
Hell yeah. I love this. Also, I mean, that Dallas, I mean, I guess this is an A storyline, but the Dallas Clippers rematch is going to be huge.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start with the A storyline, but I'm going to go to what I think could be absolutely hilarious. So for me, an A storyline is that the NBA must just be absolutely so happy about Joel Embiid in Madison Square Garden. So
yeah, that's a good one.
That is like, TV does not get a lot better than that. But the C or D storyline there is Nick Nurse and Tom Thibodeau each playing 5 players maximum, 48 minutes a game, and just grinding all of their players' bones into dust. I feel like there's a chance that series has like 12 players played in a 7-game series, and everyone is just
probably
incredibly tired and sore. I mean, if OG's ready to go, I think OG averages 44 minutes a game. So yeah, I think those two coaches are probably the most like I am not about uplifting my bench coaches in the NBA right now. If Mike D'Antoni was still here, he'd be like, "Hey, hold my beer." But and then my backup is when the Nuggets won last year, the like "Who's your daddy" thing really took off with Mike Malone. So like game one before tip off, I think that there's going to be a fairly loud "Who's your daddy" chant when the Lakers are playing the Nuggets. So
I would love to see that. I think the game one is the Lakers' best chance to get a game off the Nuggets, to be honest, based on the whole Jamal Murray kind of come back. The Nuggets aren't, I guess, like running into the postseason. They didn't really go in looking the strongest, obviously falling from 1 to 3 or 1 to 2. Sorry. So I think it'll be a really good game one, and that'd be an awesome way to start it off with a "Who's your daddy" chant.
Yeah. Also, shout out, like this always happens. Like Raptors fans are very familiar with this. But that Cleveland Orlando series is going to be buried so hard.
Oh yeah,
by marketing. They're going to start that series at like 10 a.m. And I think what's funny about it is it could be a really fun, entertaining series with a lot of good players. But like that's a nerd series where it's like it does have star players, right? But
yeah,
I think just because of those cities. The NBA is like, that's the opposite of Philly, New York, right? Where the NBA is like, man, we're good. We're cooking. This is one of those series where they're like, what, like, it's going to be like ads are going to be playing and they're going to miss like a minute of the second quarter type shit. You know?
This is an NBA TV special. Like they said, NBA TV, you guys got this. You take care of it. We'll let your entire broadcast do all the work on this one.
There's a ton of jokes going on the internet of where you can see this. Where you're going to be able to watch this series.
It's going to be an experimental broadcast. So we're going to try new camera angles.
You're going to have to go into high schools and watch it on a projector. Like that's how you can see. But the whole storyline of how the Cavs clearly tanked to get Orlando is like, I think that's what a motivating storyline for the Magic, right? So I think that's actually going to inject some cool energy into this series and obviously some like, what do you call it? I was going to say billboard, but bulletin board material for the Magic to really get up for this series. I think it's going to be that's why it's the darkest horse of all the series rather of how fun each of them are going to be to watch. But I think it's going to surprise people, I bet.
Yeah, agreed. Don't know if this is going to happen, but I will say I would love to see a Kings Thunder series just because, the Thunder are their season. I think in a lot of ways is comparable to the Kings season last year. Obviously, they have an MVP candidate. The Thunder are, I think, everyone would agree, like a class above that Kings team. But also, the Kings are that team where they had this remarkable season, and they got rookied, where they played like an old Golden State team who was like, we've done this. And for them to slay that dragon and then get to play like a young team, I think could be exciting. And maybe it's just a talent thing where the Thunder are just the superior team and it's not close, but I think that could be fun.
I'm with you 100%. I know we're going to get into your next question in a bit, but if we knew the matchup, and I pray it's the matchup of Kings and Thunder, that probably would have been my pick. I think that would be an electric matchup. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I think the Thunder would probably hope for something like this, where it's not a team that is super old and veteran savvy to kind of take on. So it makes the matchup more interesting for them. And the narrative isn't like, oh, young team versus old team. It's something more dynamic than that. And then you have the Kings that I think have a chip on their shoulder, which is why I picked them to win their last game against the Warriors. I'm hoping, and I picked them to come out of the play-in because of that. They kind of have a bit of underdog mentality coming off the last season that they did and the year that they had with injuries. So I think that first-round matchup would be electric, and it would be kind of what everyone hopes for.
Yeah. This does transition well. Guys, what is the best first-round matchup?
Oh, wow. The most entertaining, the most... I think interesting storyline wise and all that. For me, there's two that interest me the most. One is, I want to say, I like Knicks 76ers. You talked about it. it's like this is the biggest potential for what you would call an upset, but like these teams are both like obviously Embiid's back. Philly is, I think, like playing like Philly is a better team than the 7th seed. I think everyone would pretty much agree on that. Even though they were talking about how Embiid is like kind of hobbled. I was watching the play-in game and
He
it's like
wasn't moving that well.
no, he's saying like it still might be pretty rough for him.
He was basically stuck around the perimeter for a lot of that
Yeah.
game. He wasn't doing regular Embiid stuff.
And they were not covering him on that perimeter, which is why they won. But yeah, so if we can see Embiid move like he normally does, I think that'll be a great series. And I like, I don't know, am I wrong? I like the 76ers kind of, maybe just because Kyle's there. I don't know. And it feels like he's home. I'm happy for him. I like to see him do well. I just like to see him do well wherever he's playing, honestly.
Wait, are you saying you like them to win, or you like them?
No, I like him. I like them as a team right now, and I never like any Philadelphia team ever. This is the first time I've ever actively been like happy for the 76ers or any Philly team.
It's definitely the Kyle Lowry effect. I can't see any
it
other
must
reason
be.
why.
It has to be, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it's Nick Nurse.
But when it feels kind of good to cheer for a great player that you normally hate, like if you're watching Team Canada or something or whatever, right? Like a team where you're allowed to cheer for someone who you normally hate, it feels so good. I kind of feel that way about Embiid right now. I'm like, hey, I kind of want him to win, And the Knicks, the Knicks are the Toronto Maple Leafs of the NBA, and therefore I kind of always want them to do well. So I'm happy for that. And then the other one I think is very interesting is. Phoenix Wolves. I think that's going to be a cool series. Is Phoenix going to be able to outscore the incredible defense of the Timberwolves? And are we going to see KD's going to always exciting to watch in the playoffs? And yeah, Freddie, can you remember what I wanted Anthony Edwards' nickname to be? That never caught on. I can't remember what it is now.
Oh man!
But anyways, it's okay.
All I can think of is Pert Plus.
That's my number one nickname.
That's your
Pert Plus.
Jakob Pert Plus, and that's all.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, whatever. Ant-Man, obviously very exciting to see him anytime, and he's really hitting his stride. So I think that's going to be a great series. I put that one as probably the best one. That's probably the best one, I think.
That was I'm going to go to my backup because that was my number one as well, and mostly because of the Suns. I think that when they made the Beal trade, it was about getting through the season with their depth shortage or whatever, to a point where hopefully you have these three guys clicking and healthy for the playoffs. I don't know if I would say that they're all like fully realized clicking, but they are, I think, healthy. I think Beal's healthy. So yeah, that was my number one. But my backup, and it's weird because Giannis is injured, but my backup is Bucks, Pacers. As a huge Pascal Siakam fan, I'm excited for that for sure. But I also feel like Dame's had a quiet year. And Halliburton really just like exploded in the NBA this year. And then he had that hamstring injury and it's kind of slowed down. But I think that, I think there's a lot going on in that series. I think it's going to be tight, and I think it's going to be really, really exciting basketball with a lot of, Bobby Portis. Like there's just a lot of fun, personality stuff on that team. Pat Bev, that series is going to be electric. And then obviously, also, you have the Doc Rivers thing, right? Which I know you just said, he did win a championship, but this is a scenario where I think he has the third seed team. And is it going to be if they go up 3-2 or whatever, just the whole presser is going to be so Doc, how are you going to ruin this? And it's going to be awesome. I love shit like that.
I'm already trying to guess bets on who Doc Rivers is going to throw under the bus once they lose. I'm already trying to figure out which is it going to be Pat Bev? Is it going to be Giannis being injured? Who is he going to scapegoat out there? That's all.
The game ball. It's the game ball.
Yeah.
He's going to throw the game ball under the bus in a big way.
For me, I think all the good answers were taken pretty much because my number one was Suns Timberwolves, and it was for kind of different reasons than you guys mentioned a little bit. I think like that series has like the best balance of like star power slash like the makings of an upset. But I think a big thing with that series too is there's intense pressure on both sides with this because like with either of these teams losing, like there's massive question marks about where they're going. The amount that the Timberwolves spent in trades and stuff, getting Rudy Gobert, the capital they gave up to make this team happen, the Karl Anthony Towns situation. What do you make of that going into the offseason? And then you have the Suns, who obviously spent big with Kevin Durant, and the money they spent with Bradley Beal. They just extended Grayson Allen. Like they are a second apron team, like to the max. Right. So like if they lose, neither of these teams expects to be a first round exit. So when that happens, there's going to be massive question marks with it. And like interestingly, the Suns match up really well against the Timberwolves. They're 3-0 in the regular season against the Wolves. Anthony Edwards, fantastic player. Love him. I think he's due for it's his first opportunity to really break out in the postseason. He averages 14 points a game against the Suns this season. Just hasn't looked good against them for some reason. The matchup hasn't been great for him. Bradley Beal didn't play in one out of the 3 games, but the last one he had 36. So he got comfortable against the Timberwolves team. So it's going to be interesting what this matchup is going to be. And like you mentioned, Andy, like strong offense, especially on the wing. You have a Kevin Durant on the wing. You have great wing defenders in Minnesota. Like, again, that good offense versus good defense, what prevails out of it. I think that's going to make an interesting series. And I think this is really prime for an upset based on the regular season. But I think we already know that's going to be one of the better series. So I'll go back to the Cavs Magic just to give it some love. I know we talked about the NBA TV series, but like I really do think this is a good series just because like one of the most fun parts about the playoffs is like seeing who breaks out, who's going to be that next name that the casual fan base gets to know, who makes a name for themselves. And I think Paolo Banchero with the Magic is primed to be that guy. He's just such a fantastic player. I kind of look at him and I can't help but see like a young LeBron in the style that he plays with, how he gets to the basket with that locomotive style. He's not the best. He's not a great perimeter shooter, but he likes to take shots and he's getting better at it. And that kind of reminds me of a young LeBron as well. And I think he has a team around him that like, they have a defensive identity. Their offense sputters a bit, but that just so much more elevates the fact that like, hey, Paolo, be that guy, be that hero. When the offense is stagnating and they need a basket, like you are number one, take it and then do what you can with it. But they also do have a Franz Wagner as a secondary guy. Jalen Suggs is a fun player who can get on a heater randomly. They have the talent for it. And then with the Cavs, like you have question marks. You were the number 2 seed for a good chunk of the season. And that Donovan Mitchell injury really kind of derailed things. And he was going to be a top 5 MVP candidate, I think, if he stayed healthy. So they were a team that was supposed to be better. Do the basketball gods spite them for tanking and dropping into number 4? I don't know what happens with that. Maybe it bites them in the butt. But it'll be interesting because these are 2 teams that I think will match them very well. I will say this is still going to be a sickos like basketball series. It's not going to be pretty. The offense is not going to be number 1 in the series. It's going to be a defensive matchup. I think it's going to be low scoring games, but it should be fun. And I think we're going to be due for at least one obscure player going absolutely bananas. My money is on Max Strus probably being that guy, just having a heater of a game. But I think those are always fun too. Like I remember back in the day, like the Spurs, Danny Green set the record for most threes in a playoff game once. So like something like that is going to happen in this series, I think.
Yeah, these are great points. Shout out Dean Wade. It's gonna pop off.
The real D Wade.
The real D Wade. And I love your point about Wolves Suns because these are 2 franchises where obviously the Suns' new ownership came in and was like, let's sort of like kick some ass, almost like Brooklyn Nets style, when they moved from Jersey. And but yeah, T-Wolves, the pressure's there. Like this team was really close to being a 1 seed, and they have there's no I know they're like sort of, I guess they're similar to the Thunder where they're like, it's been a great season, but they don't expect to lose in the first round, and it would be it'd be kind of hell to pay. Plus, also I'll throw in that there's that kind of like Gobert stink, right? So it's like, can Gobert be, like he sort of was almost like reestablished himself this year, where like people got so low on Gobert, and then now they're kind of back to being like, oh wait, shit, this guy's like the best defensive player. Maybe we should chill a little bit. But also, if he gets roasted in the first round, it's gonna go all the way back again. Where
where do you go from here then? Like if they lose, because like, again, you have arguably very likely the defensive player of the year. You have an All NBA talent, maybe a future MVP candidate in Anthony Edwards. You have a great defense. Like really, where do you go? Because you've already given up all your capital for Rudy Gobert. Do you trade Karl Anthony Towns? But when he's here, you're like you said, Freddie, like you're almost a 1 seed for most of the season. So like really, the question marks are going to be massive for this team if they do end up being a first round exit.
Yeah, I think like they will have that sort of because Towns is injured still, right?
He came back for I think a game or two at the end of the regular season because he opted not for surgery. I don't think it was serious enough that he needed surgery, but he didn't look great, and I don't think he's going to be 100% for the playoffs by any means.
Yeah, I was going to say they might have that sort of built-in excuse if he's injured, but yeah, I mean, guys, this is great. A lot of fun stuff here. I think we're going to wrap it up there, but Zulfi, let me go to you first. Anything you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'll still be doing stuff for Raptors Republic in the off season. I do writing and contributing that way as well. Obviously, we have the Run It Back podcast, but it's going to be an interesting off season for the Raptors, like we talked about. I think something I want to look into, kind of going back to the first thing we talked about with that Messi Presser. He mentioned it a bit, kind of like what this team needs are, and ironically, I think Andy, you spoke about it. It's a bit of everything, but he had some specific points of like backup point guard, wing defender, backup big. So like those are 3 things that really stick out to me, and I think I'm gonna try to come up with something on the lines of like in free agency, who could you target? You're not going to get all 3. You're probably going to try to address some of it in the draft. But there's some interesting names around the fringes, which I think is the Raptors' most important thing this offseason. Figure out the fringes of the team because you have the top part done. So I'm going to be working on something along the lines of that. So keep an eye out.
Sick. Yeah, and we'll have your socials up, but yeah, make sure you follow Sophie, check out his work, and thanks for joining. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a blast, man.
Yeah, man. Andy, what's up? Anything you want to plug?
Watch the final season when it comes out of What We Do in the Shadows, because you might see your boy in one of the final episodes. And Space Janitor is dropping May 4th, so check that out.
Hell yeah. And yeah, for me, follow my WNBA podcast with fellow Raptors Republic podcaster Catherine Niker. The Pickup, a WNBA podcast. It's a very, very exciting time for the WNBA. Cool. Thanks, guys. And subscribe to Raptors Republic. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And keep up the support. We appreciate it. All right. Peace, y'all.